Hi, everybody. Welcome to Inside AWAI, real copywriters, real strategies, real success. And I'm thrilled to be here today with one of our early success stories at AWAI, Cindy Sear. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, nice to be here.
I'm so excited to catch up with you. And I was trying to think, when did you join AWAI? How long have we known each other?
I think it was around 2007.
So that's been a while. You're almost in the 20-year club.
Yeah, getting pretty darn close.
And okay, I do want to start with what you're doing now, but you have had such an amazing journey and how this career has fit into the different stages of your life over the 20 years. So I do want to get into that as well too, because I find it very inspiring, and I just love how you have taken this and made it work for you. But first of all, tell us what you're doing now.
These days I am working, I've got multiple clients I'm working with. I do a lot of marketing strategy for clients, and I do everything from your traditional, whole campaign where you write a sales letter and you do all the, the follow up, the direct mail and emails and, the whole 9 yards. And I also do a lot, I call them client hero stories. They're kind of like a case study, but not so formally written. They're more story
based. I love that. Great.
And they really line up with, I do a lot for like coaches and things like that, where they have clients, and those client hero stories, it makes the client the hero of the story. It's how they've had success, but I build in sort of the principles or the guiding things that the coach has. So it's reinforcing what those coaches are teaching.
Yeah.
Is kind of the basic framework. And so I do a lot of those.
That. Because it's so layered, because the coach and the service is the hero, but I have to imagine that the subject that you're talking about is the hero as well, because they've overcome something thanks to so that is I love the different layers to it, and how there is something for everybody. Basically, I'm sure the readers can see themselves in the person's shoes.
It is, and it's fascinating to me how I can, like, one of my clients is a dental coach, and it's amazing how every person I interview, even though there's those basic kind of framework in there, every person's story is different. And so it's really getting to the heart of their story. And I think it helps connect with so many different types of people.
Sure.
I love, that's one of my favorite things I do. I'm doing ghostwriting. So I do ghostwriting for books. So I've been
like business folks or
business folks. Yeah. So I do a lot of that these days, and I do cover stories for magazines. And those tend to be business magazines where, again, it's layered with that. It's a strategic move, right?
Sure.
Like the cover story, it's supposed to tell a real story and all that and get that person, but it's also layering in something like maybe there's a sponsor that we want to feature, or there's something that we were trying to set up,
so like setting the stage for what comes next, and building the credibility and establishing the relationship, all those things that are critical to that.
Right.
So you mentioned coaches. What other types of clients do you work with? Because I remember you really focusing in on self-help. I do
a lot of information marketer type of people. So, and then I also, one of the clients I have right now is a financial services company, and they do a lot of stuff with like private equity and real estate. So that's one of my clients. But they do a lot of information marketing to get those clients, to bring those clients in the door. I just worked with an insurance company, and that was a really fascinating project. I still we'll probably do some more things for them. But the big project was that they wanted to recruit more agents, and helping them to create this whole package to attract people in. And so we created a whole shock and awe box, we created a magazine and all kinds of things.
So these are big projects.
Yeah. So that was a really fun project. So those are just a couple of different things I've done recently.
That's a wide range of clients, even though they're all somewhat in the same niche, but how are they finding you? How are you finding them? And then I want to jump back to how you got your first one, but how does somebody hire Cindy today? What's that look like?
Interestingly enough, I still mostly do referrals, and it really goes back to the very beginning, listening to AWAI and thinking about this idea of like Maven. I call it Maven marketing. A lot of people call it Maven marketing, but the idea of finding out who are your Mavens. And so way back when in the beginning, I remember seeing this, you guys talking about looking at your niche. And I really couldn't pick a niche for a while. I really didn't know what that should be. And I didn't even understand what a niche was, to be honest. So what I did is I said, okay, here's 5 different areas that I'm interested in and that I have some kind of expertise in, that maybe I might have an audience for me. And I just started sending letters. You guys recommended sending letters. I remember I did a very targeted campaign. I used the skills I learned from AWAI. I went to the library. This is back before really you could
20 years ago.
Now. Yeah. So I went to the library. I used a free resource where I could look up in those categories. I could look up businesses within, I looked at like, I'm going to look at 100-mile range from my house. That's really what I did. And I sent these letters to people, and that's really how I started. And then through doing that, what I discovered was that like there was certain businesses that had the kind of they actually had a lot of target audience for me. And that happened to be, it was website designers. It was, people that did anything like that, like even just graphic designers, those kinds of people. So then I said, okay, now I know these people have people that they don't do the writing. They need somebody to do the writing to finish the website or to whatever, and they want to partner with somebody. Right. And so then I just put out I told everybody I knew, hey, do you know anybody that does graphic design? Do you know anybody that designs a website? And people started referring me to those types of businesses. And that's really what happened. And then that's just the method I've used going forward, is then I found out, okay, well, now when I started getting into info marketing, I discovered Dan Kennett going to the GKIC, it's now magnetic marketing, but going to those had a lot of business owners that were my prime target. And they understood copyright, that they needed a good copywriter,
but they didn't want to do it.
They didn't want to do it. They were business people. They had the income. They were being taught, this is the marketing that you need to do. And so I continue to get referrals that way. It's just targeting that, somebody that already has my audience.
And I do just want to put a stamp on it, because it's really interesting and clever. And so you had 2 tiers. The one was working with colleagues that could have clients that could possibly hire you. So the graphic designers and the web designers and folks like that, or it wasn't a competition. It was where you could help them out. You could help them help their clients.
Exactly.
So I love that. And then going to the places where your potential clients were, where they were qualified. Like if you're going to a info marketing conference, there's going to be info marketers there. And again, I love the strategy behind that and how it can become a referral business that way.
Yeah. And I mean, it's worth investing. To me, it's worth investing in going to a conference where, you're going to have your target audience.
Yeah.
And I think there's easier ways too. I mean, there's a lot of online things. And if you're good at connecting with people in that
Right.
kind of format, then that's, another way.
But
If
the
you
face to
aren't
face,
comfortable,
you
yeah,
can't
if you're
beat
not
that. Yeah.
comfortable with the face to face, then do one of those, and
Yeah.
you can
LinkedIn
connect
is
with
great for
people
that
and
too.
then follow up with those people. Like, don't just let it drop after the event. Make sure that and maybe you
Yeah.
target a few people in there that you don't have to do everybody. Like when I go to an
Right.
event, I don't go try to talk to every person and collect all the things. I try to find a connection or two. And if I come away with 2 or 3 connections, I'm like, okay, I'm good.
That's gold. How many clients do you work with, would you say, at any one time?
I don't really have a ton of clients, to be honest.
No.
I
And
have,
I love that. And I want to just,
yeah,
again, show that you don't need a whole lot because,
no,
the clients that you have, it sounds like there's a lot of work for you.
there is. So, I mean, 4 or 5 clients is about what I usually, am working with. I will say this as an important lesson I learned early on is that at one point I had so much of my work coming from one client,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and then the company was bought by another. They like sold the company. It was bought by somebody, and like overnight, my income dropped to 0 because they decided they wanted everybody in house.
Right.
And so I learned that power of one, like there's a danger in that, that
Yeah.
one client. And so now I really try to make sure that I don't have too much of my time going
Yeah.
to just one client.
A balance. And I
Mhm.
also think it's smart to always be looking to replace a client, always be
Yes.
bringing somebody else along that, you know, either it
Right.
becomes just a better fit or for whatever. So again, it puts you in the
Mhm.
driver's seat there and you're not dependent
Exactly.
on it. I think that that's really smart.
Yeah.
Um, so again, knowing you and you started because why don't tell us about why it was so important that you create this life that you have created for yourself and how it has evolved over these last 20 years.
So originally it started because my oldest sister, who is like my best friend, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I was at the time I was working for a company and they wouldn't let me have time off to go see her. And my sister was 1,000 miles away and the treatments weren't working, all that. And I was like, I want to put myself in a position so I can go spend more time with her. I wanted to have that flexibility. She ended up dying before I really was out. I did have a client, but I wasn't really in a position to necessarily quit
Right.
before she passed away. That happened very quickly. It was 4 months from the time she was
Oh,
diagnosed to the time she died.
heartbreaking.
Um, but I never wanted to be in that position again. And so that was really
The
the driving
impetus. Yeah.
force that made me really do it. And it's interesting because I ended up being able to quit like
What was
pretty
your
quick
former
after
job?
that.
What was your
I was
former?
selling advertising for a
That's right.
magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then, since then, it's allowed me to do so many things. Like my son, Dalton, he became really talented at like singing and playing the guitar and songwriting and got into acting and all kinds of things. And so
And this is
these
when he was a
opportunities,
child.
then he was
So
a child, right? And so it allowed me we toured around the country with him. We ended up going out to LA, and what started as like a couple months, he had an opportunity turned into, he was out there for, we were out there for 5 years, my husband and I, but I was able to do that, like
right.
drop everything and go. And there are a lot of times there were things like that. There was times where I was sitting literally with my laptop backstage, writing something for a client, and
Right,
sending it
right.
before a performance or, things like that. And I had to be present with what he was doing. There needed to be an adult in the room.
Sure.
So it allowed me to do that. And then as, that wound up, then my mom started having, well, my parents were getting, they were getting older and all that kind of stuff. And so once Dalton was kind of set and he was out there in LA on his own and everything, and we were able to leave him, then we started saying, we're going to spend time with my parents. So we would go every 2 months and we would spend usually about 2 weeks at a time. And we would just go and, be with them just to hang out with them. And then, after a couple of years of that, my mom actually, she fell and had a traumatic brain injury. And it was really evident that she was like, if she was going to be able to come home, my dad couldn't take care of her. Right. And my husband, he actually has his nursing license. He doesn't practice or touch patients anymore, but he's had it for many, many years. And so he said, I could go and I could be your caretaker. So within a matter of like 2 days from all this, figuring this out, we came back. My mom and dad lived in St. Louis. We live in Florida. So we actually came home, pack everything up in 2 days and drive to St. Louis to take care of my mom. It happened to be the beginning. It was the beginning of March 1st, 2020. So right before everything
How
shut
great
down,
that you got there then and not.
She never would have been able to come home.
No.
It never would have been able to come home if we were not there.
Wow.
And there was some things that happened with that. My mom did end up passing away. But she, and at the end of March 2020 is when she passed away. That month was unbelievable, crazy. My house flooded that month. We left, my house flooded, all these things happened. But had I not been in that position to just be able to drop everything and go, we wouldn't have been there. My mom would have been in a facility, and with the brain injury, she would not have understood why isn't anybody here with me? Right. What's going on? We were there. My dad was with her. My husband and I were both with her when she died. And so beautiful. I can't imagine had I not made that decision all those years ago, I would not have been in that position to do that.
Right.
And now I'm like an empty nester and I get to travel and,
so cool. So and let's talk about your other son.
So Austin, he, he ended up, it's interesting because when he was in college, he didn't really know what he wanted to do, but he went into I said, do marketing because if you can always change or whatever, but marketing you can use for everything.
Anything. Everybody needs to know marketing.
Right. And so he was going to school in Boca Raton. And I said, he had to do an internship and he didn't really know what he was going to do. And I said, Rich Sheffrin lives near there. He would be a great person. So we did this whole
Rich Sheffrin is a really well-regarded, very successful info marketer. Yeah. If anybody doesn't know him.
And so, and he's lived right there. And so, so I helped Austin put together, we sent him a cigar in the mail. I don't know if that's legal, but we did. We sent him, we used the direct mail, direct marketing stuff, and we sent him this stuff and then he followed up. And so I was kind of teach him that. He did get Rich to actually talk to him and kind of mentor him, and Rich gave him some things to do. And so he kind of started this relationship with him. We used direct mail for him to actually help looking for a job, which was very successful. He actually got multiple offers, but what he ended up getting to do was go to Agora, and and he really did not know. He had not gone through all this training for Agora, but it was using some of those things and following up and building that relationship with Rich.
Yeah. I mean, he had to just be absorbing it from watching you and learning from you.
And he's a hugely successful copywriter for Agora. I mean, he's doing really, really well.
That's great.
And Rich helped him, that Maven thing again, I think, finding those people that can help you, Rich is really the one that opened the door. Austin was knocking on the door and
Yes.
he wasn't getting in. It was like a year of him trying to get in that door. And then Rich kind of said, hey, and kind of made that connection for him. And so that's really what got him, and he had to go out there and he had to do it. I mean, he was the one that had to go out there,
you're not,
do the work.
Nobody gets a pass at Agora. I mean, you have to deliver. Yes.
No. And he also, this is something else to note, he went out for their open house thing that they do, and they came back and they didn't offer him a job right away. They said, you could do this, but what we want to do is like kind of train you, but we're not going to pay you anything. You have to show up every week. You're going to have to turn in stuff every week. And he agreed to that. He was like, I will do this for no pay, whatever. I'm like, I'm all in. And he was willing to do that. And I think that's an important thing, that he was willing to do that, because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm not going to get paid anything. Well, if you're just starting out, and you have an opportunity like that, well,
the payment is the experience. You can learn so much. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I just love, talk about full circle, talk about creating a writer's life that has been so fulfilling and just met your needs at all these different stages. I just think that's very exciting. We're very proud of you. And I love that, how has COS helped with all of that? I mean, you were an early adopter of COS as well.
COS was so great because it offered so many different things to me. But one of the best things was just having access to all the programs. Yeah. And, when I could say, like, people would be like, oh, have you ever written one of the big first jobs I got was Zig Ziglar. I was writing for Zig Ziglar. I had the opportunity to do that. And this website designer guy, he was like, that was his client, Zig Ziglar. And so he was like, hey, can you write a case study? I'd never met this guy. It was my first meeting. He's like, can you write a case? Oh yeah, I can write a case study. Of course. I'd never written one before. I can write a case study. And so I immediately just went home and went into my COS, and I found, there was information on how to do that. And so I was able to know what I needed to do. And I also had, I think part of it is that community. I think that is so powerful. The community that you have there.
Such a strong, supportive, generous, giving
amazing community. Because then what happened was I contacted, I remember talking to Rebecca, but I don't know if I talked to you too. I can't remember. But anyway, Rebecca, I was like, hey, I have this opportunity and I don't really know what I'm doing. And so she put me in contact with somebody else in the community, and they did case studies all the time. And they gave me, they offered to like give me feedback on what I wrote. I mean, it was amazing. So to me, those two things, the resources, just there's so much resources. You can go in there for anything. Yeah. And I still do that. I still go in if there's something, because, there's certain things I write all the time.
We're adding stuff all the time. Yeah.
Right. And you're always adding stuff. And, even just a couple years ago, I was like feeling really stuck with, I really want to do some things in my own voice. And so again, I reached back out to COS, and they're like, oh, it was the, zero client writing business.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I did that. And that really, I was like, oh my gosh, all these things I didn't know, that I learned there. It was amazing. Really an amazing program.
Great. And again, it just makes so much sense. Well, if you're writing for clients, to be write for yourself as well. Make yourself a client as well too, because it gives you a sandbox to learn in. It gives you the opportunity to develop your voice. We've talked about so much here, but what would you say has just been the most surprising thing about your life now, as compared to what the track that you were on?
One of the things that I've discovered recently that has been, I would have never imagined back in the start, was AI. I really, that has been really a liberating thing. It's been, it helped me, initially it helped me get re-excited. I think I was feeling a little bit stagnant, a little bit with my writing. And it helped me to kind of reignite that excitement. Just
because it sparks creativity. It doesn't dampen the creativity. It sparks it.
Yeah. And most recently, what's been really liberating is I've been using it more as like a strategic partner. And that comes from, do you know the book, The AI Driven Leader?
I
Are you
don't,
familiar?
but I'm going to check it out.
It's by Jeff Woods. And he really talks about, I guess the way to say it is, it's like, how does he puts it as, it sort of helps you to strategize with it instead and be a strategic partner instead of having everything done for you. So you have these conversations, and he has this framework. It's like the CRIT framework. So it's like you provide the context, which is you provide like a detailed background information about what your situation is. And then you assign AI a role of what that expert role is that you want it to be. And then you have AI interview you. And so there's this like back and forth. So you can kind of gain a deeper context into, it helps you to really like do that.
When you're articulating it, again, you have to make sure that it's clear and there's understanding. Yeah, I love that. So
and then it gives you, and then you have like a specific objective you're trying to reach. So like, for example, recently, now this is not something that you're going to sit down and you're going to do in 5 minutes. It does take a little bit of time. So you got to know that. But recently I've been really stuck with, I'm an idea person. So sometimes, and I know where my strengths are, but I also know my weaknesses. But sometimes I really have a hard time of knowing like, what is that next logical step? You know, I can see the big vision very clearly, but I don't know how to get there. And so just recently I used AI to help me create a 90-day plan for my zero client business. To help me with those like natural next step. What should I do next? Now, what should I do? So I could just focus on those things instead of going, oh, maybe I should do this today, or I should do that. And like, not accomplishing anything. And then also it helped me to identify where I should have somebody else do it instead of me. So it's been very liberating. It really has helped me to speed up the decision making. So that would say is like the thing I'm the most excited about right now, and using that as a tool.
That's great. And again, something all of us can do, and check out that book. And so CRIT. So what the C is?
Context.
The R?
Role.
Interview. And what is T?
Task. What is which is like the objective, of what you want.
Objective. Fantastic. Cindy, let's end with just your best piece of advice for anybody listening, and no matter where they are in their career, based on your 20 years now, based on what you're seeing, based on what you're excited about, based on what you're seeing with your clients, if you had to narrow it down to like, hey, everybody, let's do this starting today, what would it be?
The thing I would say is to identify or find some mavens, find those mavens that you can connect with that are going to help you with your business and help you get clients.
So, and by maven, you mean mentors, colleagues, just
like somebody, I would say the mavens to me is the people like where they have your target audience, so, like what I was talking about before with the website designers, I'm not in competition with them.
Gotcha.
So find those. And then I'd say the second thing is to really, I think, trust the process. I feel that AWI has not steered me wrong at all. I feel like had I not trusted the process, I haven't been perfect with it either. I mean, and I think that's important to know.
Nobody is.
Yeah. I mean, there's, steps I've missed and, things I could go back and do better and all that kind of stuff. But just trusting.
That's how you learn.
And going through that process of saying, this is what you need to learn and this is how you should do it. And here's how you get clients. And trusting that process is huge. If you try to change it and do your thing, like you pick and choose, I think it doesn't work as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I know you talked about you're excited about AI and what that means. What are you excited about outside of work right now?
I have really gotten into watercolor painting.
Oh, love that.
So that's been, I actually, here, I'll show you one of my paintings. We'll just like lift
Yes.
them up here so you can see one of my.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So that's
Oh,
one of
what
my.
a great outlet.
Yeah. So, and I see that people are always like, what are you going to do with it? Right now, I'm just having fun with it. I just love doing it. It's a creative outlet for me. And I do it. I've been doing some gifts for people and things like that. But I do see maybe in the future incorporating a little bit with my writing. And I don't know exactly how that looks. I don't know if it's children's books or if it's, inspirational writing that I have some stuff in there. I don't know. I have some ideas.
Of course you do, because you're the idea maven.
Yeah.
Oh, Cindy, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for just embodying everything that this life represents and stands for and can be, and for always moving forward with such great intention and just with such great heart. So I really appreciate your time today, and it was really nice to catch up.
Oh, thank you, Katie. And that was quite the compliment. I appreciate it. And I appreciate AWI. Really, you've done a lot for my life. My life would not be like it is if it wasn't for AWI.
Well,
so
it's all about our members. So right back at you.
All right.
All right, everybody.
All right.
We will see you next time on Inside AWAI, Real Copywriters, Real Strategies, Real Success. Hope you guys have a great day.